No, I get pre-show jitters all the time, and that's normal. And so, but normally when you get that, 5, 10 minutes after you start, it goes away. Well, this did not go away. I had that the whole show, and I had to sing that particular set even after my DJ set, and I was up there singing, and I was like trying to catch air, and 2 days later, I woke up with my thumb and my pointer finger on my left hand numb, and I figured I slept on it funny, and it would just go away when you get up and move around. And same thing, it didn't. Like an hour, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours later, it was still numb, and I'm like, okay, something's not right. And the numbness went away, but then I started getting this weakness, and the weakness got worse and worse as the days went on, and then it moved also to my other hand, and it was mostly in like the same thing, like the thumb, pointer finger, wrist area. And by Thursday of that week, it was so bad that I couldn't even use a computer. And nothing will scare you like not being able to use something as important as your hands and not knowing why you're having such problems with them, much less if it'll ever go away. And I'm somebody who, as a singer and producer, relies on my hands. I'm on the computer all day, so not being able to work already was like a torture, because when something bad happens to me, that's always been my outlet, and now I didn't even have that. And there was this just uncertainty about everything, and finally it was like the last thing that this possibly could have been that was sort of posited as a possibility was MS. And basically within an hour of hearing that, I started getting symptoms all over my body. And it wasn't until I was in the hospital that second time, where it wasn't even a doctor, it was like a physician's assistant, and she said to me, do you want a Xanax? And I said, actually, can you get me a prescription? As soon as I started taking the Xanax, about 80% of my symptoms went away. And that was the first glimpse of peace I had that whole time. This whole thing is caused by my anxiety. And when I had that realization, it was like shocking. I was like, that's impossible. It's like, how can your mind cause such, how can your mind make so much turmoil out of your body? Like, I was having legit physical symptoms, pain, immobility, dizziness. I asked my doctor that. He was like, you would be amazed. He said, I get patients coming in here like this who think they've had a stroke and they can't move their arm, and it's stress. The next step was I knew that I needed to talk to a professional, because I had this feeling like the MS and everything that was going on there was like an iceberg, and that was a tip, but there was a lot going on underneath that I couldn't see. And what the reaction that I had at the show, for instance, where I had the breathing, there was no problem in my body at that point, but I was still having, shortness of breath. That's not normal. So I knew there had to be something going on. And so I started therapy twice a week with a great therapist, and I'm still doing that twice a week. A lot of it came down to career anxiety. As an artist, musician, it's a very scary, unstable life. And it takes a lot of inner strength and a lot of faith to not lose your mind. And it's funny, I'm certainly not going to name names, but I know a lot of people, artist friends of mine, that struggle not so much with depression, but with anxiety. I think entrepreneurs in general, I read somewhere that entrepreneurs have 7 times the national average of anxiety and depression, because what we do is so, we have this feeling that we're really on our own, and we don't get a paycheck every 2 weeks. It doesn't work like that for us. So something as basic as survival, when that's when there's uncertainty around that causes tremendous anxiety. So basically over time, to come back, I started sleeping better. I started feeling more peace. Basically what my therapist said the medication does is it sort of puts a floor under you. There's this illusion now that we live in the digital age, the internet age, the social media age, that we're all connected. And in a very superficial way, we are. We all know what we're all doing at all hours of the day because we're always posting status updates. But it's this like fake connection. It's not real. It's like people aren't sitting down and talking face to face, eye to eye, the way they used to. For anyone who is struggling with anxiety, whether it's as severe as mine or worse, God forbid, or not as severe, and you can still function in your life, but there's just this undercurrent of edginess and discomfort. The first thing I want to say is you are not alone. And I can say that from experience, just coming forward with my story, how many people came back to me. And if you don't believe me, look up the statistics, especially amongst younger people. And honestly, those statistics may not even be completely accurate because a lot of people who have it may not have come forward with it. So it could be even more prevalent than we think. So that's the first thing. Second is that there's no shame in it. It's something that, everyone experiences, from, the huge stars to, just everyday people. It's a crazy world. It's a difficult world. There's a lot coming at us. There's a lot of, violence on TV, which is, something that I cut myself off from as another boundary because I'm a sensitive person and I can't, I'm an empath and I just can't, it really bothers me to see that. But, a lot of people watch that. Even the news, for God's sakes, it's like, it's kind of almost amazing not everybody in the world has anxiety the way things are. So it's not something to be ashamed of, and you're not alone. You don't realize the importance of these things until it builds up and builds up and builds up and gets to a point where you can't function at all anymore. And I hope that you never get to that point, and that you can kind of stave it off before it happens. For me, unfortunately, I had to learn the hard way, and hopefully you won't have to. You matter, you're needed, and you rock.